Hello, welcome everybody to Facebook Live. So we'll just take a couple seconds to let people join in, but we want to welcome everybody. So I know, Susan, you've been enjoying your time at the beach. How has it been?
It's been amazing. The beach is always amazing. It's getting warmer. I like it warm, so every every day seems to get a little warmer. So, but
That's great. That's great.
Pups and I are enjoying it.
Good, good. Well, if you can hear us, could you please write into the chat that you can see us and hear us? We just want to make sure that all technology is functioning correctly before we start to get on with the discussion. And also, while you're at it, if you just want to note in the chat that where you're from and what your facility name is, I love to see where people are at. That's fun for me. Hello, Samantha.
One of our favorites.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll just welcome everybody. We are the Dog Gurus. We help pet care businesses launch, grow, and profit. We offer business consulting services as well as training programs for pet care businesses. I am Shantae Marquez, who is business development guru and a profit network coach. And today, I'm sure you guys all know her, but I'm with the co-founder of the Dog Gurus, Susan Briggs. So everybody should know her, favorite of all. So today's topic is about dog evaluations. But before we get started, I'm going to go over a few things. So during our discussion, we love to hear your guys' questions, feedback, comments. The more the merrier. It actually helps give us a more robust conversation where I think all will benefit from. And let's say I see Tony saying hello in the UK. Can you believe it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we have Yvonne from the UK. So amazing.
That is wonderful.
It is.
And Christina says hi as well. So hello all. Thank you for joining. So also, I just want to let people know that next week, May 10th, we will be taking a short hiatus because we are going to be down in Vegas at the Pet Boarding and Daycare Expo. So if you are going to be there, please stop by our booth. We'd love to say hello and hang out and chat. It's going to be a real fun time. And it's a wonderful event. You can get lots of information and just learn a lot at these expos. So I highly encourage you, if you're thinking about going but haven't decided, come on down. It's a lot of fun. And then on the following week, May 17th, we will return on Facebook Live. Anna Radel will be joining me. She's another Profit Network coach, and we are going to be discussing how to improve your staff accountability. So if your staff is repeatedly forgetting to do duties or when duties are forgotten, is there a blame game? That would happen at my facility. Or do they take it upon themselves to do tasks any which way? Well, we know the solution to that. So join us for that discussion. It's going to be great. It's all about creating standard operating procedures and duties list. And that's Wednesday, May 17th. So now without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the subject at hand, which is dog evaluation systems. Now, for me in my facility, I really believe that process actually starts at the first point of contact with your customer. At the first time when they're really setting the appointment, that's your opportunity to get a little bit of background information about the dog to really know if a meet and greet or a dog evaluation is appropriate at that time. Yeah. So some of the questions that I would simply ask, and this is all from a learning process before I discovered the Dog Gurus, but I always wanted to know, number one, how long did they own their dog? Because sometimes we found out people would adopt a dog from the shelter and then within like 48 hours come bring it to us, and they knew nothing about the history of the dog. So, we learned to ask that question. We learned to ask, do they have experience at another daycare? Do they go to the dog park often, or is it just daycare? What's their normal reaction when meeting a new dog? Or, of course, the question we all want to know, have they ever been in a dog fight, or have they ever bit a person before? So I think it's totally fair game to start off your evaluation process with asking those questions. And of course, you want to have a good system in place to really document those answers and go from there. But Susan, I know that you're really passionate about this process. So why don't you go ahead and share some best practices?
Yeah, well, one thing, just having a formal dog evaluation process is a best practice. Over the years, Robin and I have determined that there's really two key things to keeping the dog safe in your care. One of them being a formal dog evaluation process, and then the other being formal staff training. So those are really the two key best practices to keeping your playgroup safe. And so having a formal evaluation process provides consistency between, depending on, within all the staff of whoever may be actually leading that. I also feel like it's best for your more experienced people to lead those evaluation sessions, because if you're just starting to read body language when you're having dogs meet, you're trying to read language of two dogs very quickly, and it can be stressful. So I think it's definitely something for more experienced staff members to do. And then, having the process set up. And I agree with you, asking questions to determine whether even doing an evaluation is appropriate for the dog and your center. And knowing, I think the big question is, why do they want their dog in daycare?
Absolutely. And you know what? When a dog evaluation wasn't going so great, that would tend to be one of my first questions that I'd go back and ask the client. Like, so how important is it to you that your dog participates in group play? Because sometimes they just really don't understand that all dogs are not social. I mean, it's just like people. And I'd have to explain that. It was a bit of an education process and talking to the client, but I'd have to explain to them, hey, just like when some people's personalities don't all get along. Well, it's the same thing with dogs.
Absolutely.
Along.
Yeah. The big red flags for me is if you have an adult dog, let's say 4 or 5 years old, that has never played with other dogs or has never gone to the dog park. That's like, okay, why are you thinking you want to do this? And sometimes they may just want the dog out of the house for some reason. They may be having repair people come in, or family or somebody, and want some place for the dog to go and think that's the only option. Or they may have had someone tell them they need to socialize their dog, and so then daycare is the answer. And we all know those are not the two best reasons, to start bringing a mature dog to daycare. So knowing the client's why can help you maybe get them into the program that's going to resolve their need, and maybe it isn't daycare. Now, we do love daycare, and for the dogs that are social and enjoy it, I'm very passionate about the service. And so then having that formal evaluation process helps you observe behavior in a controlled setting, as far as, how their greeting skills are, their body language when they're meeting other dogs, is there polite information and exchanges of communication. And then once, you think all that goes well, kind of determining what play group's going to be the best fit for them. And so those are kind of your goals. And I kind of feel like every interaction, like you said, it really starts from the first request up to them arriving and coming in, observing the dog, even before you get into the formal evaluation process. And you're just collecting a lot of information to determine what service is the best fit. And I love couching it that way, because back when Robin and I were doing this before we got wise, it would be like this whole pass fail thing of the evaluation, and you would end up clients in tears thinking there was something wrong with their dog, or they have failed their dog. And so we've gotten smarter over the years, and it's like, use the evaluation to determine the best service you can provide to the dog, and that takes that whole pass fail out of it.
Absolutely. We were a facility that in our area of Long Beach, we were one of the only facilities actually that could take non-social dogs. So we actually developed an enrichment program specialized for those dogs. So therefore they had a really fulfilling experience as well, just like our social dogs. And that seemed to work really well for us. So we never turned anybody away. We always had an opportunity to help somebody.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And we really encourage everybody to do that. And then, if you're thinking of, kind of setting up best practices on the actual mechanics of doing an evaluation, I am definitely our program. And we do have a program that I think Shantae will share some more information about later, but we'll give you kind of an overview of what's in that program. We do introductions on lead. However, people will say, you know, that could cause problems. And over the years, I've been involved in a lot of evaluations, and it does happen, but it's kind of rare. If you have independent, we don't have the pet owner as one of the leash handlers. It was always our team members. So you would introduce, when we call it the applicant dog, the dog that's coming in to be evaluated, two dogs that you know in your facility that like meeting other dogs, which is really important, and that they have appropriate, you know, communication skills. And so we would use 6-foot leashes, and the big challenge was that maypole dance to make sure that you keep the leashes as loose as possible. And then, as we said earlier, you're trying to observe both dogs' body language at the same time, so that if there's a signal that there could be an issue, that you're able to separate them and keep both dogs safe.
Absolutely.
And I operated my facility for 12 years, and knock on wood, we never had an injury during the evaluation process.
Impressive.
It didn't always go well, but that's why you do the evaluation process. And we would introduce them one-on-one to several different dogs, several different behavior types. It is a situation to where you are putting some stress and pressure on that applicant dog, but it's because you want to see how they're going to respond to something that they may not be comfortable with in the controlled environment, instead of waiting until they're in a group with other dogs and something bad could potentially happen. But I think the other thing that's key is, once you've done the evaluation, I think it's important to communicate to the pet parent that it doesn't mean their dog is always going to be appropriate or enjoy group. It's still a learning process that doesn't stop. You know, we would kind of simulate a small group and have the dog in that, but sometimes, you know, dogs have bad days, good days, and sometimes they just have to get really comfortable in the environment, which can take several visits. And so it's always good to say that we're just always evaluating dogs. Absolutely. Throughout the process and throughout all their visits to the center.
Yeah, because I also think that when a dog first comes to your facility, they may not come out of their shell completely.
Right.
And you actually really don't see their true personality for maybe 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times until they kind of get really comfortable with the environment. And then you're like, whoa, where did it come from?
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing how the personality can definitely change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And back to when we were talking earlier about how sometimes customers bring in an older dog for various reasons to want to start socializing them. One of the things that I would use analogies a lot of, comparing it to children or to people. And I would say to them, I go, look, a majority of the dogs that come for daycare are between the ages of like 6 months and 4 years old. That's kind of the bulk of the group. And I'd tell them, look, it's like if you and I got invited to a 13-year-old's party. I mean, that is like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they would be like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And I'd say, exactly. So you have to keep that in mind, that maybe, again, it's a little bit of an education process, and you can still have fun with them and make light of it. Mm-hmm. and do it in a very kind way, just to kind of help have them understand, really dog behavior and maturity levels, or maybe, what's appropriate and not appropriate. If they're coming in and they're like a salmon jumping on on a fishing line, I mean, that is not appropriate to go into group play. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of an education process. So, do you have any advice for when you do have to have those discussions with the clients?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that. And I always talk about it being the environment, not the dog, that the environment is not appropriate for this particular dog, because that takes away, it doesn't eliminate it, but it makes it a little softer. And that's actually the truth. I mean, we want dogs to enjoy the environment, not just tolerate it, but actually enjoy being there, which is another reason why it's great to have other options that are just as much fun for the dog. And so I love that you had the enrichment option for the dogs that didn't want to be social. Some dogs are great, just buddy play one-on-one, but don't want to be in a group of even 6 or 8. And some dogs do great in smaller groups, but not the larger groups of 10 to 15 or 20. So it's knowing your facility and your environment and just talking about your environment, and then having options. If you don't provide them yourself, this is when I do think you should have referral partners so that you can provide a solution to the client. That always makes it easier. And that's another reason to know the why of why they wanted to be there, is so that you can offer hopefully yourself a solution, or if not, a referral partner that will at least solve the problem for them. So yeah, those are not easy conversations, but if you do keep it about the environment and the behavior, I would stay away from breed or anything like that. I mean, part of in our evaluation process, before you even start, you have the list of behaviors that are acceptable and you want to see in dogs in your play groups, and then those list of behaviors that are not acceptable that you don't want to see. And then you never have to talk about breed. You just talk about behavior.
Yeah, that's very smart. And it's true. So I know that a big question for a lot of people is, how do you choose which dogs to meet the applicant dog?
That's a great question. The tester dogs, those dogs are work hard, and you need to definitely reward them. And they kind of will self-select. If you know the dogs that enjoy meeting other dogs, that can bring out a lot of the behaviors, those are the ones that I would do. Usually those I would start with more mature, good communicators. But sometimes if you have a dog that you want to see what happens if a dog's kind of in their face, or what I would call a button pusher, sometimes you want to bring that button pusher in to see how they respond. Do they give an appropriate level of correction, or are they going to go over the top and do something that would be into your inappropriate behavior list? So sometimes we would determine that based on starting with kind of our, what I would call balanced, level-headed adult dogs. And I like to do male and female, because sometimes same sex, you may have more issues than opposite sex. And then based on what you're seeing from the applicant dog, decide what's next. If you have a really pushy dog, I may want to bring in a more submissive dog to see if they're going to bully or take advantage of a more submissive dog. So it's kind of like I say, you're just collecting information and then making decisions kind of as you go, which is another reason why I think your more experienced staff members need to be leading these evaluations, who can make those judgment calls as you go along.
Yeah, and we just kind of had a standard rule that we only did 3 evaluations per day, because it is a lot of work and it's a lot of stress on the dogs that are meeting the new dogs, and on your staff too. So we really tried, you had to schedule it in advance, and we really limited how many we did. And also we just never wanted 2 unknown variables in a group at the same time. So we really had a very structured time. And I know that sometimes, we wanted to accommodate to all of the clients as much as possible, but ultimately our main priority was always safety first, and that's safety for the dogs and safety for my staff. So I would definitely recommend, if you're not, if you don't have some type of schedule put into place, to do that, and make sure it's limited in some fashion.
And then I just thought, Shantae, another dog or another type of dog you would want to introduce to them would be one that you think would be a good play match potentially, and have a similar play style. And so testing that out, because you want to come out of the evaluation having a good read on what their play style is. And so trying to find someone that would be, a good play buddy would be another type of dog we would be looking for to use during the evaluation. So I don't know, I love evaluations. I love observing evaluations. It's just, the whole behavior geek in me comes out. I think you just learn so much about dogs when you observe in evaluations.
So now I know another question that is asked a lot to us when we're out and about talking to people, or, via email, is, should we charge for evaluation? Now, I actually didn't charge for my evaluations. I know, but we had a lot of competition in town, and we were one of the only facilities that didn't believe in the philosophy of all day play. So I felt like I had a lot of barriers already hurdles to
Mhm.
with competition. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible to come try us out. And then we knew once they came to the facility that they would love what we were offering and love our philosophies. And we'd usually not lose them and they'd become a client. But I know that you guys have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
So
Well, we would spend a lot of time and we would use it as an education session. We liked our pet parents to actually be there and observe the evaluations. And so we always did charge because we kind of found early on that made people respect the appointments more and actually show up for their appointment. I think you can go and you can do this different ways. I do think being paid something for your time because you're probably using at least 2 staff members for 20, 30 minutes is appropriate. Plus it shows someone has an investment in you. Now, we would do that. And then if they bought a membership, I would apply the evaluation fee against the membership, which was one way, to kind of
that's probably how I
hook
should.
them into, yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't do it just to the day of daycare or anything. I would apply it to if they did a membership program. So trying to get them to commit, to being a good client. But I do think it's okay. It shows to me you're a professional and you have skills and are worthy of being paid for it. Now, I don't think I charged what it would really cost me, again, because like you say, you work to get them as a client and have them there, for more future revenue. But I think it's definitely okay to charge.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I love that idea that you can always apply it to another product, and having them driven to a specific product is really smart. But of course, that's why you are the dog guru. So
It was lessons learned many years ago.
yes, I'm a mini guru. So
Yeah.
so another thing that I want to just touch on a little bit is how do we get our staff prepared for these evaluations? And I know that really how I discovered you and Robin was I first partook in purchasing the Knowing Dogs 101
Mm,
and 201. And if you guys haven't checked that product out, I mean it is a game changer for your facility. Number one, a lot of our staff comes in and they may watch some television shows on dog behavior and they think that they are wizards of themselves. And, what the Knowing Dogs really did for us is it got everybody using the same language and understanding the behavior truly what it is and not
yeah.
made for TV.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was one of the things that we did require our staff. And once we did that, boy, the staff was a lot more confident. They were happier. We didn't have a bunch of injuries or
Right.
issues, any altercations, things like that. I mean, it really did help. So I know Knowing Dogs is huge, and maybe that's one of the best things that you could do to teach
Yeah.
them before they start doing evaluations.
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's almost like when we were kind of building our programs, 101 is all about safe handling and understanding the body language. And then 201 gets into understanding how to supervise and lead group play. And there's a little bit, just a tiny bit on dogs greeting each other. And then the evaluation course that you posted in the chat is almost like a 301, even though we didn't name it that. I would want the staff who are leading evaluations to have gone through 101 or 201 or have that equivalent knowledge base, because you're really relying on them to not only assess is the dog going to be appropriate and have those appropriate behaviors in your play groups, but then which play group should they go into? Because we definitely believe that you should best practice is to separate by size, play style, age, and behavior, because you don't want to put, and I know there's a lot of senior dogs that go to daycare. Archie's 15 and he still goes, but I don't expect him to play. It's more of a mental hanging out thing for him. But he wouldn't want to be in with the body slammers. So that would not be a good group for him. So it's making sure you've got good play groups to where all the dogs that are there are enjoying their time in group, which it should be the goal. We shouldn't have dogs that are cowering or exhibiting a lot of stress signals.
Saliva.
Truly, yeah, pacing, all those things are signals that something is off. Either it's one dog in the group or the whole play group, but that dog is not enjoying the environment. So our responsibility, in my opinion, as pet care professionals, is to recognize that and make a change. And if you can't find the right play group, then maybe it is a different service, like an enrichment service or something, so that the dogs are enjoying their day and not spending a day in stress. We want them to go home with a healthy tired, not a tired from being stressed.
Yeah. And I think also keeping the groups at a small level. We tried to be really between 10 and 15 dogs,
Yeah.
was depending on what the energy level was that day and the mix that day. We really did not want to have any more than that. 10 was kind of 10 to 12 was our sweet spot, but
Yeah.
depending on the group, we would go up to 15. And I know that the old philosophy, when daycare first came about into the industry, they were like, party, as many dogs
Yeah.
as possible. We thought it was great. But through the years and learning best practices and learning a little bit more about what's best for the dogs mentally and physically, and also for your staff
Right.
mentally and physically, we've learned that really it's much safer and overall better for pet and humans to keep these groups at a small number.
Yeah, and I think shorter play sessions. I mean, dogs
Yeah.
need rest. I mean, if you hang out and since I work from home, my dogs sleep most of the day. They're active a few times during the day, but when you put a dog in a play group all day long, they don't get a restful rest like they would at home, which again can make them overtired and then behaviorally not as tolerant of things when they get too tired. So I've in the early days would do some on-site consulting for people to help them when they were having troubles in their play groups. And it was interesting. They would talk and they'd like, oh, I didn't think about it, but incidents did go up with them on like Thursday or Friday when they'd been coming every day for all day and they were kind of reaching their limits. And so that told us all, oh, maybe this every day isn't good, or if they come every day, they need more rest periods. And I feel like Shantae, it is amazing because when I started doing daycare, we had to explain what it was to our clients, which was like 2000. So here we're 23 years later. You guys should benefit from 23 years of lessons. And when you know better, do better for the dogs, for your team, and for your business. And we've always said it's quality of the time they're in group versus quantity.
Yes. And Samantha says, just like kids, they need downtime, naps, and relaxation. Amen. They
Yeah.
do. Yes. And that was, I always would talk to the customers and refer, talking about kids, like Samantha is saying, and I'd say, can you imagine if they did recess for 5 hours?
Oh,
Somebody's going to get dirt in their eye. Somebody's like,
yeah.
twist an ankle or getting a little like tiff with their best friend. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why it's short, and we have to think of it in the same way. Yvonne says we only have 6 to 10 dogs in a group at one time for 30 minutes. I think that's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah. Because even when you go out to play with your own dog, you can keep them engaged for maybe 10 minutes. But if you're trying, to get them to go a lot longer than that, they're like, I kind of I want to do something else, So
Yeah.
30 minutes is a great sweet spot, I think.
I think that's wonderful. And then Tricked Out Pup says we give our pups an hour and a half downtime.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's good for the team too. I mean, it's hard. It's when you're supervising groups like that, we say it's like being a lifeguard. And so you need a break from always being on and being observant. So it gives your team a break too.
Now, here's one thing that we haven't talked about yet, but the forms for evaluations. Is that's something that you guys can get in the dog evaluations course, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about that right now in case you want to make up your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do have forms that are a part of the dog evaluation course to get information, kind of that background on the dog in a written form from the pet parent. There's a template for that. And then we also have a template to basically score the assessment of the evaluation. And from Knowing Dogs, and before that, our book, Off-Leash Dog Play, we put everything according to a traffic management signal. So it's green, yellow, or red. And really your goal is to have 80% green dogs in your play groups, maybe 20% yellow, And then truly red dogs are not appropriate for group play. And so the assessment score for the dog evaluation helps you by putting numbers to that, because we've all had those dogs we totally fall in love with and we want to succeed and be there. But having an objective score kind of keeps you on your toes to make sure it's safe.
Yeah, and you talked about the light system, the green, yellow, and red. We had those posters in our facility. So when we take them through a tour, we'd have to stop by those posters, but really we used it as a place to stop to talk about the education that the staff received.
Yeah.
But the customers loved looking at those posters because they were like, oh, my dog does whale eyes. You know what I mean? They were like,
Yeah.
it was a big aha moment for them. But we have them on our store. You can order them for yourself, but they're a great opportunity to talk about behaviors and just really show that your facility is the up and up on really training your staff properly. Let's see. Catherine says, if the daycare is within the boarding kennel, do you have staff specially hired for daycare and others doing the boarding?
Catherine, are you from Texas? I think this is an old friend of mine that is bizarre. In the last month, she was on my mind. So I love hearing from Catherine if she is my friend from Texas. Yay! I love knowing your stuff. I'm seriously, I think we were on her website within the last month. It's just weird.
Awesome.
But Catherine, what I like to do is kind of use leading playgroups as kind of a career path growth opportunity for like people that had started maybe as part of my kennel staff and learned the body language for dogs that work in group, kind of the 101. And then they were interested in behavior in group, using that as a step up and a position to maybe then move into group play supervisor or daycare counselor, and then they could go through 201 and do that. So I think it's a great way to reward experienced staff with a little more responsibility, a little more education, and oftentimes that includes a little bit of bump in pay, but it shows growth and that you have areas for them to move up in responsibility and education.
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat a link. I put a link to the dog evaluations course already. It's earlier in the chat. Now I'm going to put one for those posters because I love them.
Yay.
So if you guys want to check them out, go ahead. Let's see. I know one thing that I do want to tell you, that with the dog evaluations course that you can purchase from Dog Guru's store, online store, you also get CEUs for it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we love our independent certification that's available in the industry. And so for PAC, Professional Animal Care Certification Counselor, if you have certified professionals, they can get CEUs for going through the dog evaluation course. So yeah, we're very proud of the fact that several of our courses, Knowing Dogs is actually certified by 3 independent certifying bodies, PAC, CCPDT for dog trainers, as well as race or veterinarian professionals. So we are committed to providing quality education that's respected by our certifying bodies.
Excellent. Well, did we cover it all? Is there anything else that you want to mention? Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up that you want to put in the chat?
I don't know. The time flew by, Shantae. I love talking. This goes back to my roots, behavior and fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'll also put in the chat a link to our Grow Your Pet Care Business Facebook page. So if you are not a member yet, we welcome you to join. It's a great place to get information from other professionals and just get advice. It's just awesome group. Everybody's really kind, because our 2 rules are you must be kind and a no selling. So that's kind of the environment that we really behold people to. And I guess that's it. If I don't see any other questions, Susan, I really appreciate. Oh, wait, we do have one. Okay. Northwoods Paw. How often do you let out your boarding dogs, even if they have an extended exterior run, which isn't out in our open yard?
Yeah, I think I would say at a minimum 3 times a day, if not just for the change of scenery, a true potty walk and some exercise, what I would say is kind of industry best practice.
Mhm. Yeah, and for my lodging facility, we actually had packages and we had activity packages that
Mm-hmm.
they would purchase. So, which was required for the customers to utilize my facility. We didn't give them the option to not choose an activity package. So, that's a way to determine that as well. So, Tony says a lot of incidents happen at the end of the day. Would you say this is mainly due to the dogs being overtired?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So what you may want to do for some dogs is end their day earlier. And we had some dogs that would go into a rest period for the end of the day because they would get overexcited, or do a longer day rest if you're only doing an hour, maybe try an hour and a half or 2 hours. But yeah, if you've noticed a trend of incidents happening at the end of the day, I would say it is definitely because they're overtired.
Yeah, we had blocks of daycare time. We did not do daycare all day. That wasn't going on. There was a lot of time where the dog did have rest in between play sessions. And we really found once we started implementing that schedule, a lot of those issues went away.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yvonne says the evaluations that we do are more of a tour for the dog and owner, but recommend to have a daycare session or overnight stay so we can evaluate them without the owner. She says it seems to work. Plus, we offer other services too.
Yeah, I think if it's working for you, then okay. I just think it's higher risk than doing the more formal type of sessions that we outlined. And sometimes as you grow and change, you may find you need to change your process. But it's just what we provide as one option that I think provides the best safety practice.
Yeah, and so how we did ours is that we said that we'd at least like to spend at least minimum of 2 hours with their dog for the meet and greet. And we had a viewing room that the parents could stand in and watch for however long that they want. I mean, usually it was like 10, 15 minutes. And then the owners were like, okay, you guys know what you're doing.
Right.
I get it. I'll be back, you know?
Yeah.
And that seemed to work really well with us. But the other thing is for my facilities that I just found sometimes when people did not do a meet and greet with us and spend a couple hours or a couple days of daycare with us before they lodged with us,
Right.
there was a lot of more stress induced on the pet, which then
Yeah.
caused other issues to have to deal with. But so for us, we just felt it was easier emotionally on the pet if they did a couple hours with us before they stayed overnight or did a couple days of daycare. That worked for me. But if it
Yeah,
works,
we found that as well too, that we wanted them to come in for daycare a few times before they boarded. And no, you don't absolutely have to have the owner there. You can do your evaluations without the owner present. That was a choice we made because we wanted to use the time to educate the owner. I think it's more, are you going through a formal process and documenting the evaluation that you're doing and having dogs greet one-on-one? There are some places that their evaluation is just to put the dog in group and see how they do. And that I think is very risky. And I think more emotionally hard on the dog to just kind of be thrown in. Even if they're the first dog there in the morning, I just think having a separate evaluation, introducing one dog at a time and building to a small group is better for everybody than just, we'll put them in a group and see how they do.
yeah. Okay, so Tony has another question. How do you deal with the excitement levels when owners arrive? Ooh, this is a good one. A lot of our dogs know the sound of their owner's car, so this is something that I find most challenging, and any advice you can give would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, for the dogs that got overexcited, those would be the ones that we would put into a rest area, either an enclosure or a crate before their owners arrived, so that when we went to get them, it was just them. It wasn't getting the whole group riled up. And a dog that comes to mind is we had a Wheaton Terrier. So by like 4 o'clock, he was in a crate waiting so that it didn't cause a problem in group. So I would pull the ones that instigate the over excitement and isolate them for pickup.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's great. All right. Let's see. Any other questions that we have? I think this has been a really good discussion. We always get great participation with anything dog behavior that we talk about.
That's our core.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, Grow Your Pet Care Business, please do so. And again, thank you, Susan, for spending time with me and doing this with me. And
you do a great job, Shantae. You made it fun.
Thank you. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Smile at a stranger, and we'll see you next time. All right.
You were awesome.